Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Poblis. Poblis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out poblis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well. Welcome to Grid Life Wrap-Up. Joe Samaniego here along with Ben, Kobe, and Adam. Definitely very excited to have everyone here. We invite you to comment and share your questions and opinions right here on the air. 7 races across 5 series. Shane van Gisbergen leads the Grid World Motorsport League week 9, but a new leader in the Grid ranking, Kalle Rovanperä, took the lead from Shane van Gisbergen since he didn't win race 2 and 3. Still, Shane van Gisbergen within striking distance as Kalle Rovanperä becomes the first World Rally Championship driver to lead the Grid ranking. And interestingly enough, the youngest driver as well at 20 years old. So very exciting. And of course, another exciting moment was in the Supercar Series. We saw Shane van Gisbergen do 6 in a row, counting the 2021 season and the 2020 season. That goes up to 7 in a row with the Bathurst 1000. But the winning streak did come to an end this weekend. Jamie Whincup utilized strategy to get the win in race 2 at Tasmania Super Sprint. Shane van Gisbergen came in 2nd place in that race. And then the 3rd race, Chas Monster took the win. Shane van Gisbergen, 6th place, not the greatest race, but of course still the points leader in the series. And of course, when it comes to the Repco Supercars Series, Shane van Gisbergen is still leading the Grid rating there. My question to you, especially for you, Adam, when it comes to Shane van Gisbergen, is everyone starting to catch up to him?
The answer to your question, Joe, is yes, and I think we found that out at Tasmania. I believe that you'll have a lot of other drivers contending for the win as the season goes along, and don't be surprised if you see people like Shane's teammate Jamie Whincup, Chas Monster, and others contending for the championship. It should be a really good rest of the Repco Supercar season.
And it's really funny how we all picked Shane van Gisbergen to sweep the entire weekend, but and then that's the moment when SVG, when it got, I really thought he was going to do it, but unfortunately, all good runs must come to an end. And it did with Jamie Whincup and Chas Mostert winning, and it just shows like that. Hey, he's human, down back to earth, and now I wonder if Shane van Gisbergen can continue, his consistency, or start a new winning streak, or we're gonna see the other drivers catch up to him and have quite a championship battle on their hands. Because before this weekend, I thought it was gonna be the SVG show all throughout the season. Now I'm not so sure.
Definitely is something where, when it comes to Shane van Gisbergen, I think he's still going to be down with taking a look at the Grid rating for the Supercar Series. Shane van Gisbergen has a huge lead. Of course, all those wins and the consistency of finishing the top 10, which is very big when it comes to the ratings. And of course, in each series ratings, the top 5 gets into the Grid ranking. Now, the next race is Ben Motorsports Park. Scott McLaughlin won 3 of the last 4 races there. Cam Waters, the most recent winner there. And of course, he's been up towards the front pole, but not getting those wins. Is this a track where Cam can get a win and mount a championship challenge against Shane?
Yes, behind Shane van Gisbergen, it's really been Cam Waters, Jamie Whincup, and Chas Mostert going at it. Yeah, but now since Shane van Gisbergen is down back to earth, I think Cam Waters can definitely get a win and get those points and try to take the fight to him for the championship.
I believe that Cam Waters has a shot to win. I give the fans some perspective. We went from the shortest track on the Repco Supercars Championship in Tasmania to the longest track of the year at the Talonben Motorsports Park. I mean, I do believe Shane has not had a lot of good success there, so we shall see if his luck it turns around in a couple weeks.
Couple of weeks' time, that's when we're going to come to the next Supercar Series race. And of course, we encourage everyone to follow the Grid Ranking at Grid Ranking on Twitter. And of course, Shane still is leading the Grid World Motorsport League at Grid_WML on Twitter. Next up, NASCAR Cup Series at Richmond.
Yes, short track race and in the NASCAR Cup Series race at Richmond, there were very few yellows, so not a lot of opportunities for the drivers to get adjustments made to their cars. There were 7 cars on the lead lap when the final caution came out for Kevin Harvick. Unfortunately, had a tire go down and backed it into the wall. Denny Hamlin controlled the race, led the most laps, but there was a surprise winner. Alex Bowman on the final restart held off Denny Hamlin and took the win, and for the first time since June 2017, the number 48 Ally Financial Chevrolet went to victory lane in a points paying race, and we've seen Alex Bowman score 1 win per season so far. So and now another win. Do you think this is finally the point where Alex Bowman is going to win at least 2 races per season?
I do believe so. I think he'll have a shot to win multiple races as the season goes along, and don't be surprised if he's won at Kansas. So I think he will be a contender there in a few weeks' time.
I think Alex Bowman is primed to really make a run and have a career best season this year. And I think a lot of people forget he's been in the Cup Series now for the better part of a decade, running a couple seasons with BK Racing and Tommy Baldwin Racing before he was in the Hendrick family. So with the way Hendrick's cars look this year, I think Chase Elliott now being the only driver without a win for the team, with Larson getting his win and Byron as well. I think Bowman is definitely in a position where he could go out and win multiple races throughout the rest of the year.
And you bring up a good point, Ben, about Hendrick Motorsports. I'm really surprised that we've seen the other 3 Hendrick drivers, Kyle Larson, William Byron, and now Alex Bowman, go to victory lane, but still no victory lane for Chase Elliott. I know we're going to be going off to Talladega Super Speedway next weekend, and that could definitely be a great opportunity for Chase Elliott to go to victory lane. Also got some road courses coming up soon in the schedule with Circuit of the Americas and Sonoma. We all know how great of a road racer Chase is, so I definitely think we'll see all 4 Hendrick cars go to victory lane at some point. I don't really see Chase going winless at all this year. And Denny Hamlin's consistency continues to keep him on top, only finishing outside the top 5 once, and that was 11th at Homestead. It's really crazy how consistently strong Denny Hamlin has been this year and still hasn't won a race. 8 different winners so far, and we still have 8 drivers that won last year but haven't broke through to victory lane this year. And those are Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, Cole Custer, Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, as I mentioned, and Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski. Does this apply more pressure for the teams that didn't win a race last year to try and steal a win next weekend at Talladega? We know that's a very unpredictable track and almost anyone can win.
It might mount a little bit more pressure, generally speaking, but when it comes to Talladega, like you said, the track is just so unpredictable. Really, I think there's probably a good 25, maybe even 30 cars that, you could say go into Talladega with a realistic shot of winning the race, especially with the current era of plate racing where things are just so unpredictable and you almost always see, at least a couple of overtime finishes. So I think for those teams, is the pressure starting to build at this point of the season? Yes. I don't think you can be too disappointed if you leave Talladega without a win because, again, it's so hard to win there and it's so unpredictable.
Very unpredictable, very hard to win there. Seems to be more survival. If you survive the race and towards the front and win, that's how Talladega goes. Strategy, small role in there. Aerodynamics, that's a huge role. Keep that car clean. Don't get any damage. You could be in a really good spot. And for those teams, especially the teams like RPM, those other teams that haven't won in a couple seasons, coming to Talladega is definitely a great chance to try to steal that win. And then we'll be up to 9 different winners. especially if the drivers that you mentioned, Kobe, don't get a win at Talladega and we get a ninth different winner, I think the pressure is really going to ramp up for everybody, especially those 8 that won last year but haven't won this year.
And although they didn't really get the finish that they were looking for, I think one team that has to feel a little bit better is the team that's been struggling this year, which is Stewart-Haas Racing. Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola were running in the top 10 for much of the race there. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, Harvick had that tire go down and backed into the wall, but he was running consistently well. Same thing for Eric Almirola. The 2 veterans on the team and the two young drivers were the ones that struggled. Chase Briscoe, Cole Custer. Yeah, so besides the two younger drivers in the team struggling, in the good form we saw today from Kevin Harvick and Eric Almirola, I think that with Stewart-Haas struggling so far this season, they have to feel at least halfway good heading into Talladega. And Alex Bowman's win makes Chase Elliott, as we already said, the only driver from Hendrick Motorsports not to have a win yet. Chase has 3 top 5 finishes and 4 top 10s. Is Chase Elliott at the point where he needs to step it up a bit and be in contention for the win, or is it just still too early? I mean, he's the defending champion.
He is a defending champion. I mean, overall, with those top 10, top 5 finishes, they're doing pretty good consistently. But the thing is, if we get the 9th different winner, then especially a 10th different winner, they really need to start stepping up. We know the importance of stage points. They don't have a whole lot of stage points. Of course, a win, that's definitely playoff points. Every point matters. And then when you get down to the playoffs, we've seen drivers get eliminated by 1 point. He really, especially if we get to another different winner, I think really they need to start stepping up, but they shouldn't be worried or concerned yet.
I do believe you're right, Joe. As we've already talked about, Talladega is a wild card track where anything can happen, will happen, and usually does happen. Could we see Chase Elliott in victory lane next Sunday? Yes. Could we see a wild card in victory lane next Sunday? Yes. I believe that now Chase Elliott will be hunting for wins, and it should be interesting for him as the season continues.
Yes, it should definitely be interesting for Chase Elliott. I think he's going to be all right in the end. And I know one team that's looking for a reset is going to be 2311 Racing and Bubba Wallace. I know today was a really rough day for that team at Richmond. And listening to Bubba on the radio, he got really frustrated. It really seems like starting to feel the pressure of driving for that team 2311. His new organization owned by Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. And we do need to remember that this is a new team, that there are going to be growing pains, and they're going to need room to grow here, to grow the organization and put all the pieces together and build that chemistry. And I'm sure once all of that comes together, 2311 Racing is finally going to start getting the finishes that I feel like they deserve, because right now it seems like that Richmond was a really low point for that team.
Bring up team chemistry. Definitely, that's a big factor for every racing series. And probably the most chaotic race we saw was Formula One, where a little bit of team chemistry and a team known for being championship caliber wasn't exactly at their top. Lewis Hamilton, of course, we saw him trying to go for the overcut on Max Verstappen to get that lead. But essentially, the pit stop, 4 seconds. 4-second pit stop, too slow, especially in Formula One. That put him far behind. But definitely he had a little bit of a lucky break, but it was again to Mercedes' big disadvantage when Valtteri Bottas and George Russell got together. Russell was coming around Bottas, heading towards Tamburello. Two of them made big time contact at a high rate of speed right before the first corner. Crashed hard. Both of them very upset at each other. They didn't exactly exchange the most friendliest message to each other. Was that driver at fault for the incident between those two, or was it just a racing incident?
Well, it was certainly a scary incident, Joe. Really glad to see Valtteri Bottas and George Russell climb out of the car. God, that was a nasty, nasty shunt. Well, I know what the boss man at Mercedes is thinking, Toto Wolff, because after the race, he said he basically was putting the blame on George Russell, saying that he lost sight of the bigger picture. So definitely, it seems like Toto might think that it was George's fault, and obviously Valtteri thinks it was George's fault, and George thinks that it was Valtteri. So it's basically all of them going at each other. But what I'm really looking at is what the boss man thinks, and that's Toto Wolff.
Yeah, well, I mean, Toto's got to defend his driver. But, I think there's always that quote from Ayrton Senna, if you no longer go for a gap that exists, and you can finish the rest from there. I think the gap was there for George Russell, and, you can maybe say Bottas moved over a little bit. Maybe it was a little too aggressive for George Russell at that point in the race. But my main concern is that Bottas was that far back fighting George Russell's Williams for position. And the situation that George Russell's in, having filled in for Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes in one race last year. There's been a lot of talk about if Valtteri Bottas can't step it up, is it time to bring somebody into that second Mercedes seat? And when you're at that point in the race fighting a Williams for position, it definitely doesn't do a lot to help your cause. So was Russell at fault? Maybe, but Bottas shouldn't have even been in that position in the first place, if you ask me.
You bring up a really good point about Valtteri Bottas being in that position. He's in a Mercedes, should be up within the top 4 easily. He was fastest in the first opening practice sessions, but then qualifying failed to deliver. Was in the back. Yes, we know the Mercedes do not do good with dirty air. But as we get to Lewis Hamilton, he was in the back, raced his way to the front. Granted, new wing, front wing, new tires, perfect strategy. But still, Bottas in a Mercedes, I think he's expected to deliver, and he was not in a great position. Of course, for Hamilton, he nearly made it 2 DNFs for Mercedes today. The slow pit stop, which put him behind, he went out on the damp side of the track to try to get around George Russell, which some people, again, criticize Russell for not moving out of the dry line. That's something to debate, I think, amongst fans, and especially everyone in the chat room. Feel free to share your opinions on that as well. But of course, we saw Hamilton. He goes into the gravel, the slightest contact with the wall, just to damage the front wing. Of course, that lucky break from the red flag. And then he came from essentially 9th to 2nd place, salvaged that effort. I feel that was a championship drive, but definitely the team did not seem to be championship caliber and was just trying to do everything they can to recover and catch up. Do you believe Mercedes is still the team to beat, or is that now Red Bull?
Well, I do believe Mercedes is still the team to beat. Lewis Hamilton is obviously the defending Formula One champion, but I think it's gotten a lot closer between Mercedes and Red Bull. But I think going through the season, I think it was really cool to see at least 2 teams competing for the win today and not just one.
I still think Lewis Hamilton is the driver to beat, but Max Verstappen is definitely going to give him a run for his money when it comes to the championship. And looking at the second Red Bull car, we all know the story behind that second car, how it seems to be cursed, and how that driver alongside Max Verstappen does not do well at all. We would like to see Sergio Perez get some luck on his side and see what he can do in that car on a consistent basis. And Valtteri Bottas has been mentioned. I wanted to say completely agree with your assessment that Valtteri shouldn't have never been back there in the first place since battling a George Russell in a Williams. Since we already know what the Mercedes is capable of, he should have been able to fight his way up to the front and be much further, so that incident wouldn't have happened at all.
I have to agree with everything you said. I feel when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, he is definitely championship caliber. We saw that today from 9th to 2nd place. For Mercedes, I still feel they're the team to beat. However, it's when they have these races where they're not 100%, I feel Red Bull is now at that level to pounce, to get the lead and the win. Now, we do have a question from the chat room. The question is, will Haas score a point this year? Also, will Mazepin finish the season? Well, definitely, I think it's something where when it comes to Mazepin, he's probably going to be there for the season. But I guess my question to everyone is, when it comes to Haas, will they score a point?
Well, I think if Haas scores a point, is we're going to need a lot of crazy things to happen, a lot of attrition, and I do think that the driver to score that would be Mick Schumacher. I think at the moment Nikita Mazepin has a lot to learn. I saw Antonio Giovinazzi was really angry with him because he messed up his lap, and Mazepin tried to defend himself, be like, I'm trying to make it back to the line and get my lap too. So he's angering his competitors. and we already know, don't have to talk about the incident that happened during the offseason that put him under a lot of scrutiny. So a lot of pressure on Nikita Mazepin, and he's a young rookie, and it seems like he has a lot of growing up to do and a lot to learn on the track.
I've seen nothing from Haas so far. I mean, I know it's early; it's only 2 races in, but I've seen nothing that suggests that they're going to be anywhere near the points this season. Kobe, like you were saying, I think it's going to take a race with a lot of attrition and just a brilliant effort from probably Schumacher, if we're being honest, because what we've seen from Mazepin the first 2 races, at least he finished the race today, which I guess is an improvement. Anything would have been an improvement from last or 3 weekends ago in Bahrain. I know we had a long off period in Formula One, but I don't see Haas having the car, having a car capable enough to get either of their drivers into the points this year, and Mazepin in particular. I'm expecting him to finish the season just because of all the financial backing that his family brings to the team. I think it would be really detrimental for Haas if they had to find a mid-season replacement for him. But the way that it's going right now, all bets are off. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if it comes to that by the middle of this season.
I don't think Haas will score any points this season, but if they do, I think Mick Schumacher would be the person to do it. And regarding the other question, I think Mazepin I believe he will finish the season out, but he's going to have to step up and improve a lot if he wants to continue in his seat for the year.
Great points, and we definitely want to thank Seth in the chat room for sharing that question, and we encourage all our viewers, be sure to share your question and opinions. As Humperdinck has said, Haas used to be a solid midfield contender. It's sad. Definitely, they have gone down from what they were when they first started. Really is a sort of surprise when it comes to the big drop of Haas lately. Another big surprise, that came over at IndyCar. A big first lap crash ended the race for Joseph Newgar, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Colton Herta, and many others. Felix Rosenqvist, several others got damaged. They were able to continue on the track, log laps. However, Alex Palou, that was probably the bigger surprise, as everyone ended up saying hello to Palou with his win. O'Ward and Rossi, the two of them made early pit stops. It looked like it was going to be between those two. But as we saw, Palou, he was just staying out there, taking care of those tires, logging fast lap after fast lap, utilizing the overcut. It seemed like game over, and really it sort of was. No real threat until Will Power tried to make a last-ditch effort, as Palou couldn't pass the lap car of Connor Daly in the closing laps. Power had a bunch of push to pass, over 80 minutes remaining. Palou, he was down to the teens. Power settled for second. Scott Dixon, third place. So Chip Ganassi, first and third. Did Palou's win surprise you today?
A little bit. And I don't want to make that sound like I didn't expect Alex Palou to have the potential to go out and win an IndyCar race, because I know he's a very talented young driver. But we look back at his season last year, there were some growing pains, as there are for most rookies. He did get one podium. But for him to go out and win on debut for the Chip Ganassi team, I think is absolutely incredible. And I was really expecting O'Ward and Rossi to kind of be the two protagonists in the race today. I know Rossi kind of got caught out on the strategy, and O'Ward, maybe if he had a few more laps at the end, could have made some noise. I know he was coming back up and catching the leaders really quick, but Palou did a great job today and thoroughly deserved the win.
I think it was really cool to see Alex Palou win his first career IndyCar Series win. And to give the fans from some perspective, former driver Michael Andretti and the late great Dan Weldon also had their first career, also won for Chip Ganassi on their first time out. So to see what he did, I think it was really cool. And overall, I believe it was one of the best races overall of the weekend.
You bring up a really good point, especially with Dan Weldon, Michael Andretti did that, I believe, in 1994 at Surfers Paradise. So definitely that was a big moment, especially Chip Ganassi wasn't exactly seen as the dominant team as he is today. The highest finishing rookie, that was Roman Grosjean. Definitely very excited for him. 10th place, great racing all around. Barber Motorsports Park, of course, missing from the action, as I stated earlier, was Joseph Newgarden, Colton Herta. They were in the top 3 in the points. Colton said he wasn't too concerned to be out of the race in the first lap because the series is so competitive that everyone's going to have at least one bad race. Do you agree with Colton that he and Joseph Newgarden shouldn't stress too much about what happened today?
Yes and no, Joe. I think most drivers are going to have a bad race at some point this year because the series is so ultra competitive. But at the same time, I would rather start the season off on a high note and try to maintain consistency instead of starting at the very bottom and try to work my way up. Because as we saw last year when we started the season off at Texas Motor Speedway, Alexander Rossi had a really bad start and he never recovered from it at all.
I'll agree with you. I believe everyone will have at least one bad race this year. I believe Colton Herta and Justin Newgarden knocked theirs out already. So it should be a really ultra competitive 2021 NTT IndyCar season.
Very competitive. I have to agree with you. I know as a driver, especially when you're being interviewed, you don't want to give a sense of panic. We just wrecked in the first lap. But the consistency, we know how the championship could come down very close. I do feel there has to be pressure like, okay, we're going to go to St. Pete. We have to get a podium. In fact, Will Power, before the race said, big thing for him, finish in the podium. They've had lousy starts to past seasons. Now you got your teammate, Joseph Newgarden. He didn't have the greatest shot at a win because it ended on lap 1. Championship is going to be a little bit harder, especially since Scott Dixon, who beat him for the championship last year, got 3rd place. No IndyCar ratings, of course, since they just completed the first race. It takes 2 races to be rated, and then after the second race, of course, they'll be part of the grid ranking. The next race is April 25th, St. Pete's, the street course. Alexander Rossi, he finished 10th, but really was no threat at all, trying to see if rated racing is going to start stepping up their performance. Other rookies, Scott McLaughlin, 14th. Good day for him. And, of course, Jimmy Johnson, 19th. A lot of folks watching the 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion in his IndyCar debut. But definitely the strategy seemed to be something where 2 and 3 stops. Would you say that strategy was a greater factor in today's race, or is it still the teams and their level of performance?
I think it's a combination of both. Like I mentioned, I think strategy is what allowed Palou to be up there and get the win. I think O'Ward definitely had the fastest car, but it was just kind of how the strategy cycled out that left him P4 today. And of course, Rossi up there at the start of the race as well, falling all the way back to 10th. At the same time, I mean, you see there on the screen, Ganassi has 3 drivers that finished in the top 8 today, and even Jimmy Johnson. I know it was his first IndyCar race, and you expect it to take a little bit of time for him to get up to speed relative to the rest of the field. But by the end of the race, I know it got off to kind of a chaotic start, but his lap times were only about a second off of what the lead pack was running. So I think it's evident that Ganassi's cars definitely have speed, and we shouldn't expect anything less than that from them because they've been one of the dominant teams in the series for years.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben. That it was a combination of things, and that was a really awesome opening step for Alex Palou, being able to go. I believe it was 30 laps on those Firestone Reds, the faster compound, before switching over to the blacks, and overall, looking at the complexity of the race and how it shaped out. As soon as Pat O'Ward went for the 3-stop strategy versus the 2-stop, I know him and the Aaron McLaren SP squad were shaking their heads because it's like, what do we have to do to win an IndyCar race? Because Pat O'Ward has been very competitive, and he could have already had like 3, 4, even 5 IndyCar wins already by this point. And I know it's really frustrating for him and the group because with they just got it wrong on the strategy today, and they unfortunately saw another one slip away.
It slipped away. I was surprised to see the strategy work. I just kept thinking as well too, we were probably going to see another caution or something, but that never materialized. Definitely great effort by Alex Palou, Chip Ganassi Racing on that win. And of course, next weekend after the St. Pete Grand Prix, They will be scored in the grid ranking, and then all 7 series will be up and running in the grid ranking. And of course, one of the series that completed their 3rd race today, MotoGP.
Yes, MotoGP returning to Portugal, started the season finale, and this time the second round. Last time Quartararo, second track. Last time Quartararo crashed out, ending the season on a low note, with many questioning his performance and cracking under pressure. This time Quartararo was on the pole, fell to 3rd at the start, and came back to win the Portuguese Grand Prix. Joe, is Fabio Quartararo for real? And I know they mentioned him today during the IndyCar broadcast about helping Roman Grosjean after his scary crash. Just wanted to get that in.
They did mention that. Of course, Fabio, a fellow Frenchman as well, with Roman. When it comes to Fabio's performance today and then last weekend, I feel he is the real deal. Even that first race, yeah, he finished in the top 10. Wasn't too much of a factor. We saw his teammate get the win, Maverick Vinales. But today, he even made contact in the start with Alex Rins. We saw a little piece flew off the bike. No panic, no additional pressure. He got the lead. In fact, he put the pressure on Rins. Rins essentially slid out of the race. Fabio was still laying down fast lap after fast lap after fast lap. And I feel going into Jerez, he won there twice before last year. If he could put 3 in a row, that's going to send a major statement to everyone at MotoGP.
He's back. Marc Marquez, who got a top 10 result today. It's only the 5th time he didn't finish a race in the top 6. It was still a great effort. Led Honda today. I know they're very excited to have him back. And Nakagami also in the top 10. What do you think of Marc Marquez's performance back, especially heading to Jerez next, the site of his accident last year? Do you think that affects the mind in any way for a driver after they were injured at a certain track?
I do believe there has to be some effect. I know earlier in the year when Newman was going to Daytona, a lot of people were talking about the Daytona 500 crash, his first time being there, all this. When it comes to Marc Marquez, he has had success at Jerez. He has won there several times. In fact, you look at the books, it's Marc Marquez or Yamaha that has won the last several races at Jerez. Marc Marquez, with his effort today, he logged in the laps, he got a top 10 finish. If he could do the same thing next weekend, I do see him being in the top 6. And I think he will be pretty much focused on keep recovering. Maybe that first couple laps, going to be a little bit thinking about what happened last year, but I think he's going to be 100% by the race.
It was really cool to see Marc Marquez back this weekend. And do I think he has a shot to win a race this year? Yes, I do. Do I think he'll be a contender for the championship? Yes, I do. The next time we see MotoGP, we'll be in Spain. And like we said, he has won there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the contender for the win in Jerez.
Yeah, Adam, definitely. Don't count out Marc Marquez, so it would not be a surprise if we saw him win at some point this year. But I know Matt White from the Grit World Motorsport League, he said he's taking a more cautious route. He doesn't think that he won't win for the next several months, and that'll probably be before the end of the season if he does win this year. But I definitely think that Marc Marquez will win a lot sooner than that. And we also brought up yesterday on pre-race that MotoGP, the competition right now, is extremely close. And it's really interesting to see the different type of bikes and where their strong points are. When Ducati has the best straight line speed, Suzuki has the best tire management, and Yamaha is really good in those corners. And Yamaha so far has won all 3 races this year. Which team is most likely to bring the fight to Yamaha at Jerez?
I think it'll be Honda. Marc Marquez has won there, so I think if I were Yamaha, I'd watch out because the Hondas are coming to take the challenge to them.
I have to agree. I think it's going to be really Honda. Marc Marquez, I think he'll bring the fight. I'm just not sure. One Honda rider, MotoGP, that I see that could be a factor, Taka Nakagami. We saw him get the pole last year. I believe was at another venue, but I can't remember exactly which one. Of course, that race, he went out on the first lap. Got a top 10 this race. If he could continue improving, I think he'll be up front. The big thing, of course, is the Yamahas. They're looking fast overall. Suzuki, they don't have the best success at Jerez. That's why I don't see them being too much of a factor. I wouldn't count out Ducati just yet. Ducati with that, especially straight line speed, if they could get a really good setup, and the big thing, a cooler day where the tire wear is not going to be a big factor, I wouldn't be too surprised, but I do think Honda, particularly with Nakagami, might be the surprise threat.
Yes, that would definitely be a surprise. And something else that wasn't a surprise yesterday was a good day for Kyle Busch Motorsports at Richmond Raceway in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, with all three KBM trucks finishing inside the top five. Chandler Smith was fourth, Kyle Busch second, and John Hunter Nemechek won the race, his second win of the season, holding off the boss man Kyle Busch both times. People were stunned by Nemechek's decision to lead the NASCAR Cup Series and drive for KBM full-time in trucks. Many saw this move as a step down or putting him behind in his racing career or like a reset. But John Hunter made it perfectly clear that he wanted to win races and compete for championships regardless of the series, with 2 wins in the bag and strong, consistent start to the season. It appears that he made the right decision, and he's proven all of his doubters wrong.
Proving his doubters wrong, that's the big thing. Has to feel really good, showing that I could go out there, I could go win, maybe even get another opportunity at Cup with another team that could bring potential wins. When it comes to wins, of course, that is a big factor in the grid ranking. And here are the top 10 of the grid ranking. But what's really interesting, first time in history, Calvin Rivera with World Rally Championship, he's leading the grid ranking, and he has 0 wins. Why did this happen? Well, simply because World Rally Championship has only done 2 events. 2 events, the minimum to be scored. His, I believe, 4th place, 6th place finish, that got him up there in the lead. Of course, once the season progresses, we'll see that change more and more, as it will become very important to start winning. And as you can see, the entire 30 drivers that are in the grid ranking right now, we saw a lot of changes. The big thing, of course, when it came to Formula One, they are now scoring, and you got 2 drivers up there, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And of course, in their grid rating for Formula One, they're only separated about 1 point, but this time Max Verstappen has that lead. The big thing, of course, Max Verstappen won from 3rd place on the grid compared to Lewis Hamilton when he won from 2nd place on the grid at Bahrain. That's the 1 point difference. Out of 7 series, which one do you feel is the most difficult to win in the grid ranking?
I believe it's a toss-up between NASCAR and Supercars. I know each series is diverse in their own way, but I believe it's hard to win in NASCAR and in Supercars. There's a lot of really good drivers in both series, so I think my wild card would have to be IndyCar.
Those series are really hard, and of course, just about any professional level racing series, it's really challenging. And some big news that came out today that we have to bring up before we get to our one shining moment. Formula One, they're heading back to the United States for a second round starting in 2022, the streets of Miami. Obviously, of course, Miami, Florida, sort of known as a little bit of NASCAR territory. Well, now you're going to have Formula One there. Do you think this is good for the sport?
I think it could be great for the sport, but it's going to be up to Formula One and up to the city of Miami to put on a good show and make this partnership work. And it sounds like they're committed to it, signing a 10-year deal. So I'm really hopeful that everything goes according to plan. I know we're still in the pandemic; things are still crazy right now. Hopefully, this time next year, we'll be even closer to back to normal, if there ever even was such a thing. But I think this partnership is something that's been in the works for a while. It's so great to see the announcement finally come out today. But like I said, it's going to be up to Formula One to put on a good enough show to justify putting a second race in the United States. But if it does, the payoff is going to be absolutely phenomenal. You got Miami, one of the top markets in the U.S., and the U.S. is one of the biggest countries in the world. A lot of potential for growth still for Formula One in the United States to kind of compete with IndyCar and NASCAR over here. I think this could be great, but it's up to them to make it work.
Yes, definitely, Ben. It's up to them, and I really like Formula One add in a street circuit instead of going to a permanent road course, because I know that I've always said, instead of trying to get the people to come to the race, take the race to the people. In the streets of Miami, as you mentioned, one of the largest markets in the U.S., and I think this certainly has a lot of potential. And also events like this, especially a street race, Miami, South Beach, you can attract celebrities to come to the race as well. And when you get then you see those celebrities post about it on social media, then all of their fans will start to pay attention, and there's a potential for Formula One to grow the American fan base. And I know one celebrity who spoke about it when we got initial talks about this potential Miami street race. It was Golden State Warriors star Draymond Green. I remember he tweeted about it and said that he would definitely be down to go to a Formula One race in Miami. So now he'll get his opportunity. It just depends on where it's placed on the schedule, so he can be able to attend if he chooses.
I think this is awesome news for Formula One. Now we'll have 2 races in the United States, and hopefully we'll have a U.S. driver sometime in the future competing in Formula One. We haven't really seen one in a really long time. I believe the last one that really made an attempt was Michael Andretti. So hopefully this will attract a lot of fans from not just South Florida, but all across the country to make a trip to Miami and to see a Formula One race that they probably would never see in their entire lives.
Miami is definitely a destination where people go there for the beach, for the clubs. It's Miami, Florida. It's a tourist attraction. You're going to have Formula One there. That's going to be huge. And it comes to the United States. Now we're going to have 2 Formula One events. That's going to make it huge. Yes, it might be a little bit of a bummer for Circuits of America. You might have fans who are like, hey, instead of going to Austin, Texas, let's go to Miami. But still, I feel Austin, Texas, Circuits of America will be healthy. Austin, Texas, a great city, vibrant culture there. Definitely it's something where I think both races, especially if they're spread out far enough, it should work out where we're going to have one earlier in the season, one later in the season, and it's a win-win for everyone. And there is a young American, Jake Crawford, a young American in Europe coming up the ranks. He is hopeful to get into Formula One someday. So definitely having now 2 F1 races in the United States, I think overall it has to be good. And definitely thanks to everyone in the chat room as well, sharing their comments as well.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be holding our hopes up for Crawford here in the United States. Been a while since we've seen an American racing in Formula One. And you mentioned 2 races. If we have 2 races, it'll be really important, especially yes. And the last American to race in Formula One was Alexander Rossi in 2015. So it's been a while, and maybe that will end. Unfortunately, it seemed like the Formula One dream ended for Logan Sargent. His funding dried up, and unfortunately, he wasn't able to continue with his single-seater career at the moment, trying to make it to Formula One. And now it's time for our grid one shining moment. Starting with you, Joe. What's the big thing that stood out to you this weekend?
For the one shining moment, I think what stood out for me has to be the effort by Alex Palou. Alex Palou, rookie, coming in. We all knew where he was last year with the underfunded team, making the best out of it. And let's be honest, that 10 car in Chip Ganassi, we've seen Scott Dixon win. We haven't seen that much success in that 10 car. To come out there, first race, and get that win, I think that's a huge moment for his career and could definitely lead to bigger and better things.
I'll have to agree with you, Joe, for my one shining moment. It was really cool to see Alex Palou capture his first career win in Alabama today. And also, I'll give a shout out to Jimmy Johnson as well. He came from NASCAR to IndyCars, and he finished his first race. Overall, I'll give him an A for effort.
I'm going to go with Lewis. I thought his race was done when he went off into the gravel and, had to rejoin the track. And really got saved by that red flag, which unfortunately involved his teammate, and I guess his teammate by extension as well, was George Russell. But to see Lewis come back up through the field like that, I think is just a further proof of the kind of driver that he is. It's not just the best car, as often detractors like to say on social media. He really proved what he's worth today, and we've got a great fight on our hands in Formula One. The one race that Lewis won, Max was on pole. The race that Max won today, Lewis was on pole. And the only reason that Lewis has the points lead right now is because he got the point today for the fastest lap. So this is exactly what we were hoping for. I know it's still early, only 2 races in, but championship couldn't be closer than it is right now. And I really hope the title fight goes down to the end at Abu Dhabi.
Yes, same here. It might be one championship season to remember. And my one shining moment is going to be Roman Grosjean, who finished 10th today in his IndyCar debut. And the reason why I'm choosing him is because we all know what happened last year in Bahrain. That's the scary wreck with the fire. We all thought the worst, and then he just emerged from the flames, and he was all right despite suffering some burns. And after going through such a scary, traumatic crash like that, one would understand why Roman Grosjean would decide to walk away from the sport completely and decide to focus on family and but he was like, no, I'm going to continue my racing career elsewhere, sign with Delco Racing, with Repco Racing in the IndyCar series. He spent a lot of time learning IndyCar racing, had some great moments today, especially cycling through with the strategy and stuff, got all the way up to second at one point and fell back after some slow pit stops. And in the end, top 10 finish, first IndyCar race. It looks like Roman Grosjean is going to have a great time in the NTT IndyCar series.
Looks like it'll be a great time for him. I encourage everyone to please like, comment, and subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube. Check out the links below for Publis, 10% discount, and sign up for our Patreon. With Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish, Ben Schneider, and Adam Lemarese, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time. Joe Samaniego here. Want to invite you to go check out Publis. Publis is a dog clothing and accessory company based in Austria. 10% of each of your purchases goes to helping dogs in need, whether it's homeless, sick, or ill dogs. This is one of the reasons why we support it. Kiska here is a rescue dog from rural Alaska and our Grid office dog. We care about our furry buddies, and we know you do as well. Definitely check out Publis.com. There's a link on the video description, and by clicking on that link, you get a 10% discount on your purchase as well.